Parliament yesterday, you heard the eyes, but you couldn't hear the nays or the nose. And that's what Irama Bedu used in their song, Kom Namaye. Kom Namaye, Kom. Even if you don't believe it, it's in your heart. Let's hear some voices on the street, what they think of JDM and who should be the running mate. And we will start off with some party big wigs and listen to them.
Presidential candidate.
If you talk of a vice presidential candidate, you are presupposing that there's a political party, and that political party has ideals and has values. So definitely, it will be somebody who is an adherent of those values and ideals.
What do you consider as values that you would want a vice presidential candidate to appreciate?
Well, the point of NDC is pro the ordinary man, is pro the working people. And then the interest of the ordinary person is also very, very key. So a person who is wanting to, who is aspiring for such a very high position should be somebody who has that commitment to these values that one is talking about.
But Alhaji Yahya is keen on the uncompromising qualities needed for the NDC.
Social classes does not necessarily mean by virtue of your qualification you are constricted within a mold. You can be a middle class and you can go down to identify with the ordinary people and champion their cause.
The NDC is believing that its 24-hour economy idea will convince Ghanaians to give John Mahama a second chance at the presidency. But the MPP would not give up that easily. The party wants to break the eight. This party that has been accused of being an Akan confederacy and elitist has gone its farthest yet to elect and rally its support behind a northern candidate to prove critics wrong. It also wants to give a message that it has a record to defend.
The MPP has done a great job showing that it is beyond ethnicity. And now the matter of a running mate, there's always the need to balance the ticket. Even in America, almost invariably, when there's a southern presidential candidate, there's a northern vice presidential candidate, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. Because after all, democracy is representation. And it's important, therefore, that every person must feel the participatory nature of democracy. So that is a good step. It appears that there's a feeling generally that if we had a candidate from the Ashanti region, after all, the bread basket of the party, it would be reasonable and sensible to balance the ticket. Therefore, it's important to factor that into the equation. It doesn't mean that it will work that way by all means, but it is a factor. A vice presidential candidate must be someone who is not looking out for the boss's job, and a person who is also not going to work like a co-president. You are a vice president, and that person must therefore be of such equanimity that there will be no clash of personalities. When President Rawlings made Accra his running mate, there was a clash of personalities. And we all know the unpleasant things that happened. It's a factor to take into account. The person must also be knowledgeable enough to supplement the efforts of the president, just like Dr. Baumia has done. But nevertheless, he is not the president. There's only one president. And the vice president actually does not lead the country. It's the president who leads the country. The buck stops with the president. And I must tell you that in actual governance, a chief of staff may be stronger and more influential in the governance than the vice president.
Freddie Blay is a former chairman of the NPP.
The presidential candidate should find the one that he wants to partner with, accommodating, a good friend, somebody that they will consider to be, always say, his alter ego. You know, that if he's not there, he steps in. And not only that, because not only does he step in, but he wants him to go represent him anywhere else. He's confident that he will do exactly what he likes. And then the party must be in love with the person as well. Because it's a teamwork. And the president wants to have somebody that we can team up with. And the party also would like to see someone that immediately anything could happen to the president, and he could step in. You must be somebody who also attracts some votes for you. Who's not the one on the ticket, also you partner you. But it's you, the president, who will attract your own. But then, if you have a good vice president, you will also be going around during the campaign, and maybe even the electorates. Maybe if you love, you call in love with him, or appreciate him, and consider him to be a very good person back then. I tell you, it all helps. So it is good to make that very careful.
This road leads to the castle, and until the establishment of the Jubilee House in 2008, the castle used to be the seat of government, where decisions were taken by the president and his vice, and decisions that affected you and I.
From Sunrise, you heard the voices of Alhaji Hudu Yaya, the former General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. He's also part of the Council of Elders, the party stalwart. Right after him, you heard Professor Aaron Michael Quay, Reverend Professor Aaron Michael Quay, former MP for Dom Kwabinya, former Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, the 7th Parliament, that is. And then also Freddie Blay, former Deputy Speaker of Parliament and former Chairman of the New Patriotic Party and former legislator for the Elembele constituency. And the conundrum remains that both the NDC and the NPP, NDC led by John Mahama, former President of the Republic, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, present Vice President of the Republic, do not have running mates. There are names that have been thrown out there. John Dramani Mahama has submitted some names we want to believe for consideration. If you listen to the bigwigs that we spoke to, they painted a certain picture. Mustafa Gbande is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. He's here in the studio. Mustafa, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, my brother.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And good having me.
Great. This running mate conversation is taking center stage. But first, let's ask, what are you picking from on the ground? You're a grassroots man. People come to you and they tell you stuff. Initial comments, what have they been saying?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that basically the rank and file of the party below is looking for power. Ghanaians in general is looking to have a change of government. One, by virtue of the 8-year cycle, which has been the trend. Two, by virtue of the fact that we are living with a very failed government. Ghana as a country is gradually becoming a failed state and, retarding or retrogressing from the trajectory of progress that we have known in the last few years. It's clear that the current, status as we have as a mockery of our identity as Ghanaians, full of corruption. For the first time, I have seen a president or a vice president, developing the pageantry to lie publicly, to stand to the public gallery and lie, amidst poverty, struggling Ghanaians, high taxes, high cost of living, high standard of living, high cost of goods and services, teachers being victims, nurses are suffering, even journalists are suffering, farmers are suffering, nurses, mothers are suffering. If you go to Kwalebu today, I'm told that 200 specialized nurses have left, and all of them have traveled abroad. Today, the gap in terms of what people see to be the personality of a president or a vice president have been deprived by the presence or the emergence of President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Today, if you ask who is your vice president, apart from the name that they will put to it, it is a position of an individual that have been used for all the wrong reasons. He's like a hole. He's been used to dig all the holes in the farm. You know, he's been used...
Used by who?
He's been used by President Akufo-Addo and the Achim brothers. I mean, obviously, Bawumia is my brother, but he has been used for the wrong reasons against the people of Ghana. And that is the gap that we have. You ask the young people of this country, they are not willing to vote because they don't see why they should continue to struggle for people to come and lie to them. When you know you haven't eaten, you haven't had breakfast in the morning, President Akufo-Addo is saying that continue to smile. When you know that projects have not been done, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is engineered to come and stand outside to say, we have done it. Now, beyond this, the people in the NDC are solidly behind their flag bearer, who is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We know that he's a man of integrity and credibility. When President Mahama was a president, beyond all that he has done, the Senchi Accord, you remember when we met in Senchi, was an admission of responsibility that we have difficulties in an economy. Let all the brains come together. Let us find solution for our problem. That was an admission of sincerity. Now, if you look at the past running mate that we have, she was a woman of credibility. So today, the gap is not about whether you are holding masters in economy or whether you are an economic whiz kid. That alone is not enough because we have an economic whiz kid who have given us the worst economic performance in the history of our country. So what Ghanaians in general are looking out for is trust. Somebody who can fulfill their dreams. Somebody who can give them hope. And the NDC is doing a search for an individual who will complement the vision of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who will complement the strength, the already established credibility and integrity of the flag bearer, who will stand shoulder to shoulder with the flag bearer to confront the problems facing our country and our people presently. That's
what you're looking for.
That's what we are looking for, and that is what the party is looking forward for. The flag bearer.
Are you not too late in the day, given the fact that you elected your flag bearer very, very early?
No.
I mean, literally now, you and the NPP, who recently elected their flag bearer, are literally on the same wavelength. You're late, aren't you?
We are not late. What we did is that we are looking at a party in opposition and a party that is strategic, very pragmatic at what we do, because we don't want to be in the euphoria of populism with empty sloganeering. We are in a critical time as a country. We need solutions. Ghanaians are waiting to see who will give solutions to their problems, who bring hope. And so we went to our primaries. We had our flag bearer elections. 3 people contested. 1 person emerged. If you remember, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, Kojo Bonsu, and then His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. That phase, as we speak today, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is working closely with all his contenders.
I see.
He's working with Dr. Kwabena Dufo. He's working with Mr. Kojo Bonsu, who was his own appointee. Now, let me compare that to what happened in the MPP. Even in their primaries today, Bocha Jaku is seriously campaigning against the government. Alan Kojo Chirimantin, who was a minister of trade, a presidential aspirant, is seriously campaigning against the government. Kennedy Japan, who is, a firebrand and a former presidential aspirants believe that government must be changed. It's not the same. And so we are trying to give Ghanaians a united, focused political party that is willing to do the work. You see, when a child will grow and buy a car, you see it from the characteristics that a child exhibits.
Right.
You cannot have a disintegrated political party to come and lead a country. They will disintegrate the country. That was the mistake we made in 2016. These people were disintegrated. But they lied to Ghanaians and we believed. They came and disintegrated the country. As we speak today, Ghana is divided because we have a very divisive president in power. The MPP sold to Ghanaians 2 tactical con men, and we bought it.
That's not
blindly.
fair. That's not fair to them.
They are very con men.
That's not
they
fair.
Are
That's
a
not fair to
president
them.
and a vice president who lies publicly, who deceive the public.
That's not fair
who
to them.
knew that in their heart they are lying, but they will lie for votes.
What did they lie about?
A lot of things. We can get there. But I'm saying that the NDC is trying to present that front. 2, our political party as it stands today is very united and very stable. We finish our primaries as we speak. Dr. Ofusampofu is on board. He's a member of the Council of Elders. You remember he contested with Asedu Nketia at the time. General Asedu Nketia is the chairman of the party. The party is united around its general secretary and national chairman. There's no fallout.
Is there pressure on John Mahama to name a running mate? And names have come up. Julius Deborah, Wadako, Zaneto Ajima Rollins, Professor Nana Jinopoko Ajiman. Mr. Spielgabra, for example, says that, well, he won't shy away from the responsibility if it's bestowed upon him. And many other names have come up. Is there pressure on John Mahama?
There's pressure on John Mahama to name a running mate.
Why is there pressure on him?
There's pressure because the party has overbreeded competent people. The party have prepared a lot of people who can fit in that portfolio. And so in the midst of many, decisions are very difficult. We are not, exposed to only one choice. Like the names that you have mentioned are very competent people. You had chiefs lobbying President Mahama publicly for him to make their natives or their subjects running mates. What it means is that our party is attractive. There is an assurance, inevitable, that the NDC is the next party to form a government. And so everyone is tilted towards that assurance. And so that is what brought about the pressure. But you see, the beauty is that all of these individuals who we have been mentioning, you've heard names outside, are people that believe that one person would emerge out of them. And when that person emerges, all of us will rally around.
Have the people who were nominated by John Mahama, have they been literally vetted or considered? Are we done with the process?
It is not a criteria in the NDC to go vetting for people who will be running mate. Even if that is done off camera, is done at the highest level of authority of our party, restricted, and you wouldn't know, and it wouldn't come out. But there have been a public search around to settle on persons of high level of integrity, high level of credibility, to fill in the space, to bring back the meat, the attraction around the portfolio of vice president. Because as we have it today, if you mention a name vice president publicly, it's a mockery. It comes with insincerity. It comes with a portfolio or a person there who lies. It comes with a person who is deceitful, who is a deceptionist. So we want to restore that dignity to the office of the vice president. So the MDC is placing much emphasis, apart from balances in terms of what many would term as North-South combination, which has always been the trend for all political parties. And because John Dramani Mahama, Mr. President, is coming from the North, obviously the running mate would come from the South, any part of the southern regions to rally around the sadness.
Okay.
Beyond that, the NDC is much interested in qualities that will bring credibility to the office of the running mate and the vice
What
president.
qualities are you looking at?
Sincerity and credibility.
Okay.
Ghanaians are looking for someone who, when he says yes, it's yes. When he says, I'll protect your public purse, you don't end up looking for police to go and retrieve the purse from the man who gave you that promise. Now, as we speak, Ghanaians are looking for opportunity to rescue their purse because President Akufo-Addo and President Bawumia, who promised to protect the public purse, are the ones who are punching holes in the purse as we speak. These are the people who touted a vice presidential candidate as an economic whiz kid, the best economic Ghana government will ever had. Experience from Bank of Ghana, he's given us the worst performance in the economy. So deceit and lies. Publicly, he came prepared a 73-page document of lies as a vision. Vision.
You don't believe
Vision
anything that the vice president said?
It's not about belief. On the record of the facts, they are lies.
Digitalization doesn't mean anything to
When
you.
somebody comes and says digitalization, what does that mean? What does that mean? Do you eat digitalization? Did your children eat digitalization? Yes, the NDC is not against digitalization, but we prioritize the standard of living of the people beyond digitalization. Digitalization is a gradualist process of system that should be built for a nation to bring paradigms in terms of how we do our things. It is not a one-day affair. So when anybody tells you that digitalization is a 7 years affair, it's a lie. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said when you go to Kwalebo, he has digitalized records of hospital. When you go to medical services, priority to human life is not on the records. Priority to human life is the quality of health care you receive. When people are lying down in the hospitals and they cannot get beds, when people cannot use the National Health Insurance Scheme to access health care because it has collapsed, and you have a vice president telling you, I have digitalized your records. Clearly, he's telling you that by the time we finish that digitalization agenda, it is this thing. What do they call it? Ghost. It is Ghost that will be manning the digitalization agenda.
Do you get a sense that the government doesn't recognize that there are some failings and you keep trumpeting them? Somebody's asking, for example, that don't be too complacent. This government knows they have failed, but they are very good at schemes. Keep your eyes, nose, and all your party senses open. Raphael Kwame Laba is admonishing.
Well, so thank you very much, Raphael. But there's a difference between acknowledging I have failed and being good at scheme. That is why we are up and armed to expose them. We will expose every single scheme of this government. The scheme that let us rebrand Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he's damaged beyond repairs. Let us go and say that he has no responsibility constitutionally. Let us say that Article 58 exonerates him. Let us say that all the mess, he's not part of it. We are exposing him by saying that he was the man who virtually trumpeted all the false hope Akufo-Addo gave to Ghanaians. He was the man who held public lectures to tell Ghanaians that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. Took the economy from $1 3.8 cedis. Today it is $1, 13 cedis. That was deception. This is the man who said publicly that I've built dams, I've built toilets. We asked them, where are the dams? Loans were taken on behalf of the people of Ghana. You and I know. They spent the money. They chopped the money.
On what?
They've shared it into their pockets. They've shared it into their pockets.
That's a serious allegation to make.
They've shared.
Do you have proof to these things?
In a proper jurisdiction, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia should be facing prosecution, himself and Hawa Kumsin. When you have taken loans for one village, one dam, and you have not constructed anything close to a dam, it is not in existence, and you tell Ghanaians you have constructed dams, that is causing financial loss to the state.
Is the NDC considering the age factor? Because John Mahama now, if he becomes president, if the people decide to vote for John Mahama in 2024, he will have between 2025 and 2028, and he's gone. He can't become president again. Then the NDC will now have the task of putting up another candidate if you want to satisfy the 8-year requirement. And Ghanaians will now be asking questions about age and all of that.
Yes.
Is the NDC considering age in terms of the running mate who becomes running mate?
The NDC is prioritizing the Ghana agenda way above the NDC's agenda. If we come to power in the 4 years, Johnny, we are able to convince you that we are confronting poverty, we are confronting corruption, we are confronting infrastructure deficit, we are bringing hope to the people. It is not a problem producing another candidate for another 4 years. Why do you think about 8 years when you are not sure of the next 4 years? These times are very critical that poverty is chasing every single Ghanaian. Standard of living is chasing every single Ghanaian. Rent is chasing every single Ghanaian. Tax is chasing every single Ghanaian. On top of it, government corruption, heightened government corruption. Corruption within the seat of government is intimidating and suffocating the ordinary Ghanaian. Johnny, if you are a salaried worker, about 27 to 30% of your salary go back in taxes.
That's right.
And you see that your money, the president sanctions for your money to be shared to his brothers, Kenofurata and Gabi. You think that is governance? That is stealing. Broad day thievery. And that the NDC want to use the next 4 years to rewrite our story, to prosecute the people's agenda, the Ghanaian agenda. It is not about who becomes president.
Will it be easy within 4 years?
Governance has never been easy.
Because if you raise the expectations of the people and you come and you can't do it.
When there is a will, there's a doing. When there's a commitment, His Excellency Akufo-Addo never had the commitment to solve the problem of this country. The man who says, I've never ate Gari before. How do you give him a country that has 80% of Gari eaters? The man who says, I've never eaten Gari before. You want him to understand the pain of the people who eat Gari. In our villages, we ate Gari to come here. The man says, I've never eaten it before. And you gave him a country to manage a country that has poor people. He doesn't understand the mechanics. He doesn't understand what it takes to impact in the life of a poor person. So today, all the poor people are cut off from government. There's nothing from government that shows that I want to disburden, I want to ease the suffering of the people. When there are challenges, normally, it is the higher class that must sacrifice.
Right.
But Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is doing the opposite. That when there are challenges, government executives should continue to enjoy at the expense of the poor people who don't have police, who don't have the military to protect them, and that they put opulence and arrogance as defenses to what they do. NDC is coming to use 4 years to rebuild hope into governance. 2, to confront the challenges that affect Ghanaians head on. We must look at what affects all of us head on. And when we do that, it will be easy for us to come back to power in the next 4 years.
You would then need a great chairman of the economic management team.
Yes.
That will be the vice president, as has come to be known now. And you remember that in the past when the MPP had waged their campaign, they said John Mahama was never in charge of the economic management team. It was Kwesi Botwe, Professor Kwesi Botwe, the late, who was in charge. Dr. Bawumia said that, what the solid economic management team. Now we're being told that the buck stops with the president and all of that.
Yeah.
But Ghanaians have now come to know that the vice president automatically will chair the economic management team if the president so wishes.
Yes.
Are you considering that in your choice of a running mate?
Even when, you see, my brother spoke about schemes, which we will expose.
Right.
At a time when we didn't have a John Mahama, who is an economist, we have never recorded this worst economic performance before. Then the MPP sold us a candidate who they have marketed to be an economic wizkid. That he was a deputy governor of Bank of Ghana. He knows everything economy in this country. He understands everything economy. Then they brought us a corpsman who is a one-way bread. He doesn't understand nothing about economy, gave us the worst economic indicators in the history of our country. So will you then say that in your next government, your head of economic management team must necessarily be an economist? You will never say that. Because there are evidence on the facts to prove that it is not about the credentials of a person, but it's about the consistency and value chain of the individual. Clearly, the MPP gave Ghanaians people with credentials, but people without value. Both the president and the vice president are products of weak value chain system. So they don't understand the wrong when you lie. They don't understand that when you are deceptive, it affects your credentials. When President Akufo-Addo was touted as a lawyer,
right,
under him, we recorded the worst human rights abuses. Even journalists were victims of his abuses. Under a lawyer, we have an economist. Under an economist, the country is collapsed. The economy is collapsed. Government of Ghana, our country is bankrupt. Under somebody who came with high experience or economic credentials. So we are saying that if you have vice president who is a head of economic management team and surround him with competent people who know the work, yet chaired by somebody with credibility, you can have good policies that Ghanaians can trust.
You have said, I mean, not you individually, but the party, your party has said that at the time you changed the leadership in parliament, there were three things that informed your choice: infrastructure, economy, and energy. So the economy, finance issues was for Kisela Tuforsin, that's his forte.
Yes.
Infrastructure was for Govins Kwame Agboja, because he's been with that space.
That's correct.
And then energy, Dr. Emmanuel Kofi Amaboa, right? Yes. Is that also going to find presence in who you decide on as your running mate?
Parliament is an advocacy wing. It's an engine of the party.
Right.
They're talking about the driving seat of the party. I'm sitting here with you. My general secretary is not here. My national chairman is not here.
Right.
They are in other big meetings, sensitive meetings, important meetings.
Right.
When I am doing the work here, they should be in a meeting that credibility is required. When my national chairman and my general secretary cannot be trusted, what is the essence of my work?
So what are you saying?
In the essence, we know MPP have been in power before. They've done some good stuff before. We know the kind of products they have. They have sidelined all of these people and brought us people with low value chain system, poor value chain system, people who don't stand by their words. The problem with this country as we are now is not about the country. Ghanaians are very willing to give Ghana government an opportunity.
What is the problem?
The problem is that we have two con men in charge. People who continually believe that they must lie. People who continuously believe that they must deceive the public. Someone just said that MPP are strong in schemes.
Right.
They are strong in rebranding bad goods to sell to the public. So that rebranding was started. That is how come a campaign manifesto committee is put out. A campaign team is put out, but we don't know their running mate. They are in churches now begging pastors to become their running mates so that they can deceive Ghanaians again.
Which church?
They are in churches.
They are in churches asking for pastors.
They don't have confidence in any of their materials.
The NPP, you say, is in church.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is trying to, wade the political practice of this country into religion and ethnicity. That is what we should fight.
Are these Orthodox churches or charismatic churches or the Islamic
they are in
faith?
churches begging pastors to become running mates. I'm telling you, that's the reality. That is the worst search that I've ever had in my life.
Are you going to stick with the male-female representation on your party card? Because the first time you did that was when you brought in Professor Nana Jenopo Kwajiman. But prior to that, the NDC has never had that. I don't think the MPP has also had that. Are you going to maintain that male-female?
You see, you need a running mate. I've heard some people say that, somebody must understand party values. Please, we have too many officials who understand party values. The General Secretary and the National Chairman are cabinet members.
Silent cabinet members.
Party will be represented at cabinet.
Right.
Beyond that, you need people who brings on board other floating voters, other representations, other groups of people. That is what you need. Two, you need somebody, like I said, who brings what the NDC prioritizes today. We are prioritizing credibility and integrity as key components of who becomes our vice president or running mates. A man who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Ghanaians and be honest with them. A man who can tell the reality to the president. A man who is to complement the vision of the president.
So it's not going to be a woman?
Whether a woman or a man must reflect these important values that I'm talking about.
But there are those who believe that Professor Nana Jenopo Kwajiman should be maintained because You have sold her to the people.
Yeah.
The people liked her.
Yes.
The first time she came onto the sheet, that defeat you faced in 2016.
Yes.
I mean, you recovered very well in 2020.
Yes.
You saw your votes show up. You saw what happened in Parliament. So you should maintain Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman. What do you say?
That would be the prerogative of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, in line with consultation with party elders and various groups of people. Now, Professor Jenana Opoku-Agyeman was picked from the outside,
Right.
brought into the party as an education minister. She was a former vice chancellor of UCC. Go
That's
and see
right.
today, the school there is one of the best in Ghana. When I was in the Polytechnic, if our exams was coming from UCC, we are all scared
Because it's going
the
to
number
be
of questions that comes.
University
so clearly,
of Constant.
it's an institution that has been built to groom products for the future. So that credibility is there. She was one panelist that interviewed presidents.
Right.
IEA.
debate, right.
We all saw,
She was a moderator.
exactly, we all saw her level of principles and values. Now, she made it to the list and choice as running mate because of credibility.
And she hasn't lost that credibility.
So today, can you pinpoint a corruption, an iota of corruption to the reputation of Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman?
So what would it be, maintain or
So
not maintain?
I'm just saying that would be the prerogative of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. But it will not be out of place if she's maintained. It will also not be out of place if she's told that under the circumstance that we find ourselves, step back, let us bring in a fresh individual to continue the journey. That enveloped letter from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to the party will be opened on the 7th. And that
On
will
the
have
7th of March.
Yes, we'll have the opportunity to see the names. And then at that level, Council will have the opportunity to make inputs. And then we arrive to support. The reason His Excellency is doing this is because he's a consultative figure. He believes that the party must be brought along to his choices. There's nothing like His Excellency John Dramani Mahama as an individual. He's the leader of the National Democratic Congress. He's leading us into governance. And so he is a leader of affairs of government in 2025. And so the party will stand with him in every decision. So what he needed to do was to make sure that he carries the party along.
You need money to run the campaign. Will you be looking out for somebody with deep pockets?
Ghanaians are not looking for people with high campaign monies to be good presidents. These people shared money, came into power, and they have ended up giving us the worst. So if I were you, I would not be looking for who shares money in campaigns. Because you are going to be receiving stolen monies. And stolen money doesn't build an economy. It doesn't build a factory.
But the electorates are now demanding for it,
The
unfortunately.
electors are not naive. Ghanaians are suffering. They know in their pocket. Drivers are suffering. Trotro drivers are suffering. Women are suffering. Mothers are suffering. Fathers are suffering. They need a change of government to at least ease themselves and have some hope that in the worst case, there's a government to stand by its people, not this current setup of government.
There's going to be a new generation of leadership after the John Mahama era.
Yeah.
People have mentioned the likes of Dr. Zaneto Ajima-Rawlings, Okudzeto Ablakwa on the MPP side. They talk about Sami Uku and many others who are also within the same age bracket. Will the consideration be made for one that comes from the younger generation who's above the 40-year age to partner John Mahama, who is inching towards the 70, so that smooth transition is well and good to happen?
I think that age has never been a factor. That is why President Akufo-Addo became president at 79.
Oh.
Age has never been a factor. Ghanaians trusted him.
Was it necessary to have said that the president came to power at 79?
It is true. It's a fact. He came into power at an old age, an old man. I was sympathizing with him when he was giving the State of the Nation address.
Why?
And I could come to a conclusion that His Excellency the President Akufo-Addo is surrounded by people who don't like him. Because at the age of the president, he's weak and old. You don't give him a long speech, an empty long speech to come and read.
He will be 80 in March.
So he got it.
So he didn't come in.
We thank God for the life of a president.
Right.
We thank God.
So he didn't come in at 79.
So I'm just saying that,
Right.
well, he came in at some point.
72,
that is, when you are
73.
60 years, you have to go to pension.
That's right. That's
He
what
came
the,
into
that's what
power
the law says.
Beyond that age. Right? So at old age, he became president. So
Same thing can be said of John Mahama, Dr. Baumia,
no.
Alan Tremantin. They are all gone
You
past
can't be
60.
comparing the strength of John Mahama to a sleeping.
I'm talking about the
A
age.
sleeping grandfather. Nana Addo is my grandfather.
He is your grandfather.
Yes, I used to call him grandfather until they demolished my house. Then I changed, and I decided that I'll go for a flesh for
You
flesh.
used to call Nanado
My grandfather. Yes,
Oh,
that
I
was
see.
when I thought that his age reflected an individual who had love for people, love for country. He is not like that. I found out he's not like that. He's a very divisive person. Look at what happened in the Volta region. That a dam spillage ran into communities and displaced human beings. The president politicized it. Sadly, till today, as we speak, there is no clear-cut initiative, any commitment from government to help these people, simply because they are Voltarians. There is a president who unleashed army into Volta region to make sure they don't vote.
Those
Because
were COVID-19 border controls.
There was nothing COVID-19 borders. There was a deliberate move to render Volta region an insecurity area. Put the military to intimidate them. Because you have a president who doesn't like them. The president demonstrated same recently when it came to Central Region. But Central Region voted for him in 2016. This is an ungrateful president who could say that in the hometown of your predecessor, a man who sat in the seat that you are currently sitting, you say because his party didn't win in that constituency, you wouldn't develop the place. How dare you even think that in the constituency of your predecessor, you should win? Who will dream winning Chebi seats, where President Akufo-Addo is coming from? How will NDC even dream that?
But the NDC won the Wenchi seat. That's
yes.
the birthplace of Dr. Buzia.
Yes.
A proponent of the
because
tradition.
we had Chairman Asedun Ketia having a long-term strategy from the place. I'm saying that if you go to Chebi today, President Akufo-Addo have single-handedly put Wi-Fi in the whole of Chebi. If you get to Nyinam, street light all the way into Chebi community.
Right.
At least if the president didn't serve the people of
That's
Ghana,
a Tiwa East.
he's helping his constituency. So John Mahama will not come and say that because Atiwa didn't vote for an NDC candidate, he won't develop them. That's a very divisive comment. That's a very unpresidential comment that should be coming from a president at a time that Ghanaians need some consolation from their president.
Tete Abraham says NDC should maintain the Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman would be a better vice president. Also, Prophet Raphael Kwame Laba says, I also think same. He thinks same for consistency. Kim Eshen says Mahama should bridge the gap, the gender gap, and bring Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. She's worked even in opposition, and a great point for some women floating voters like myself. Professor Jane Nana is Mahama's best bet. Emmanuel Enim says JDM is tried and tested. If you don't know the mission and vision of JDM, then you are visionless. All the airports and the interchanges, port expansion, etc. It mentions a lot of them. Evans Nectar says Professor Jane had to be maintained because I think in 2016 Ghanaians put a lot of things into consideration by voting for the NDC. I'm sure you're talking about the 2020. Emmanuel Enim Kwasbach says old man. Okay, I don't want to read this one, but clearly, the people who are commenting here are calling for Prof to be maintained. Is that the same indication you get on the ground? And I ask you this because you're a grassroots person.
Yeah.
You crisscross the country, go to the nooks and crannies. Is that the indication you get from them?
The rank and file of the party are not concerned. They are indifferent to whatever it is. They are looking up to leadership.
Okay. On what you decide.
On what we decide, because they know that various individuals are interested, including chiefs, are willing to be running mates because they are eager to be part of government to help change the story of our country. If you are in a hardship and the government is building, a Bank of Ghana building at a cost of $250 million. Multiply that by 13 cities. Then you have even farmers want to be running made because they are interested in changing the narrative of our country. Beyond that, our party people know that it will go through some criteria.
Right.
And one person will be settled upon. It doesn't mean that the rest are useless or they didn't, have what it takes to be vice president.
You will still find some use for them, something for them to do within the party.
They are already, functioning within the rank and file of the party. You see, the difference with the NDC is that not like the MPP where people who are perceived to be loyalists from President Kufuor are cut off from President Akufo-Addo's government. And you saw that very visibly right from the time of Paul Akfoko. It is only Kwabena Japan who have become a sellout and betrayed that accord after Ghanaians stood with him.
He believes in the party principles and
Well,
the
he's a
party
sellout. He
tradition.
doesn't have principle. Kwabena Japan didn't have principle.
Oh, no, that's of a party
I
tradition.
used to respect him until he demonstrated that he didn't have principles.
How did he demonstrate
You've seen
that?
how President Akufo-Addo dealt with unfairly the people who are perceived to be pro-President Kufuor. But yet, he dances and pretends to President Kufuor in public as if he likes him. That is not the story of NDC. In the NDC, there is no that division. Every big man is a big man. And if you are required in a particular area of functioning, you'll be called upon. Recently, we made our committees. Look, senior members of PNDC, senior members of NDC, former ministers, they are in with youth. You've seen young people who have been put in national committees. It's because we are trying to bridge the gap.
Where's your campaign team?
Our campaign team is in place. Why? The president is touring. Is it dwarfs who are preparing?
But you have not officially announced it. That's
Yes,
what the MPP says.
Because abnormal situations demand abnormal solutions. We are using an extraordinary approach to the extraordinary situation we find ourselves in. So for the first time, the president says that one way of me putting a message together for Ghanaians is to go back to the people of Ghana. Let us sit down and agree on what your problems are. It's called social contracting, covenant.
But you did that in 2020. You had the People's Manifesto.
It was not that intensified as we are doing today. We invited people to bring their contribution, their opinion. Now the president goes to the people. He met with teachers. He met with farmers. And you know that the problem of a farmer in the southern part of the country is not the same as the problem of a farmer in the northern part. In the northern part, we are battling with water and rains. So His Excellency says that what I built in Garu Timpani is an international standard dam. I thought that Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who is a northerner, would have copied same. But because they are lying, they didn't even realize that they had to go and copy what His Excellency John Mahama did in Garu Timpani. They rather use excavators, gave to their party chairman to go and dig holes. All the holes now have closed. So he says that when I go to the village, the northern part, I will give each district, a Greek district, 15 tractors. Apart from establishing agricultural cooperative unions, I will also put agric service centers to control these 15 tractors. So that, Johnny, when you want to make a farm, a 5-acre farm, you go to this service center, they give you a tractor to go and plow your land, then you rely on the cooperative union, get some loan to buy your farm inputs. We are producing millionaires out of farming. That is what John Mahama is going to do. He got this as a result of a conversation with the people. He goes to cocoa growing areas, goes to cashew growing areas, and out of a conversation it emerged that our biggest problem is how to farm and how the cocoa seeds are processed. So he says, I'll build a factory there so that after we have helped you, don't forget that the NDC and John Mahama has a legacy of giving free fertilizer schemes, free seedlings of cocoa to farmers. Having supported in this way, after you have harvested, we'll put a factory when I come back to power so that you can, the process of adding value to the cocoa seedlings so that we can use it here other than selling it raw. When you do this, you are producing millionaires.
Mustafa, one of the things that I have picked up, having interacted, and I also do a lot of community engagements, community connect and live broadcasts. Some of the people walk up to you and they say, look, if you claim that the NPP has messed up the way you believe they have, then ideally they should not be confident in even communicating towards the 2024 elections to say break the 8.
Yeah.
But they say they have not done what you say they have done, so they are confident in winning. What do you say to that?
3 days ago, I told the MPP that if they are able to show me where the dams are, I'll leave that very minute and go to where the dams are, or I resign as a Deputy General Secretary. They haven't been able
Which
to.
of the dams? The dams that were built by the special initiatives.
One district,
One
village, one dam.
One village, one dam, right.
They claim they have prepared it, isn't it? The president spoke about it, the vice president spoke about it.
Right.
There's no dam. They said we have built toilets. Do you see a toilet in your community? Johnny, you live in a community. Do you see one? Clearly, these are lies. In the eyes of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, President Akufo-Addo, and the current setup of the MPP, Ghanaians are not serious and Ghanaians are fools.
But Accra is not Ghana. It goes beyond Accra.
That is why we are crying for the poor people. President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's policy represent the suit wearers in Accra. But beyond that, there's a village man who is schooling under 3. There's an old lady who only girls get health care when he relies on his health insurance card. And that is not working. So they will die. So this government is actually killing more people than it is saving people.
What could you possibly do in 4 years? Because if you look at the issues of our domestic debt exchange, our IMF program, you look at all the conversations that are happening. I mean, to be truthful, in fact, your flag bearer was asking for honeymoon. People say, hey, please don't start this honeymoon conversation and all of that. What could you possibly do in 4 years? Because 4 years is quite a tight period.
If in 4 years, the NDC government is able to fight and chase all the people within this government who are stealing government money alone, Johnny, I'm sure you'll be very excited.
Of course, I want corruption to be nipped in the bud.
Exactly, and you are aware that there's heightened corruption in this country by this government now. So if in 4 years we have been able to do that alone, which I can promise you that they can go to heaven and come down. Each one of government appointees will stand squarely to their crimes.
People heard that before. You said that before.
So you will see. That is why we are bringing you. That is why we are doing things without being mindful to 8 years. That we believe that our 8 years in government will be dependent on our performance. Ghanaians will have the opportunity to assess us. Ghanaians will have a very fair opportunity.
You said this before. I mean, I'm talking about your party. You said this before in the past that
I wasn't a deputy general secretary.
People will be dealt with. Professor Mills got in there and says, "Oh, allow."
Professor Mills was a Sumjehene. He was a president who said that is why they are making noise today, because at the time the party believed that we should jail some people.
Right.
Then he said, "No, I want to put nation building first.
Right.
So let us proceed."
That's Professor Mills.
That's Professor Mills. And then that regime changed. Please, I'm not a representation of that principle.
You said this is a new era.
This is a new era.
A new national executive.
This is a new NDC, a new era. The problems we are in today are different. That corruption happening under the MPP at the time is even different. This one is supersonic corruption. The scandals that will come out from June, you'll be shocked what these people have done
this year in June.
I'm telling you.
Rahisu Moro says bringing Professor Nana Najiman will be a problem if Dr. Bawumia selects Napo, that's Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, as running mates, because they were both education ministers. You know, Napo's performance was better than that of Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. What do you say?
Why was he removed? Why was Napo removed from the Ministry of Education?
He was reassigned to the Energy Ministry.
Okay, so if Napo becomes a running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, it makes the election easy for us.
Really?
They know. That is why they are begging churches for running mates. I'm telling you.
You say that if Dr. Bawumia partners with Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh,
yes,
the elections will be easy for the NDC.
Yes.
How?
Strategically, I know.
How?
I won't put the reason out.
Okay.
Let them name him. If Bawumia likes, let him name Napo. And you will see. We'll come back here and I'll tell you how the election is going to be easy.
The Constitution doesn't give any president more than 4 years, so that's Yeboah George. And I'm sure he's talking to you about the length of time you need to fix things. Raphael Kwame Laba says, Johnny, this government knows they have failed. Their arrogant posturing is rather nauseating. Unfortunately, they think Ghanaians will fall for their falsehood. Johnny, it's only a dog as pet that will stop following you and will be noticed. When human beings stop following you, you can never know.
Correct.
Anyway, we have to go, Mustafa. In wrapping up, so you say 7th of March, we will get to know who the running mate for the NDC is.
By the grace of God, the running mate will be officially declared to the people of this country.
And then what should Ghanaians do with that?
Ghanaians will jubilate.
They will?
The team is set. NDC people will jubilate because our team is set. In the NDC, we believe that a president alone does not make a party. An individual cannot make a government. So when the bits and pieces all take responsibility, then there is dedication and there's loyalty to service. And so the party will do its bit. The party is united under the general secretary and the chairman of the party. Those of us below are all working together. There's no division among us.
Right.
When you come to the running mate, the president will choose a running mate that will resonate with the rank and file. When it comes to the message, our message is feasible. Our message is very slow but hot because it reflects the problem of the people. So now you need a will, value, integrity, credibility to do it. And that is why we are telling you that.
And is that why people are struggling to understand the 24-hour economy? Because the message is slow, but it will travel along.
The 24-hour economy explanation will come when we outdoor the tentative policy document, where you would have to read critically. But if you want, at another time, we'll come. I will explain to you what the 24-hour economy means for a grassroots person.
In 1 minute, if I ask you to make a power pitch of the 24-hour economy, what would you say? Mustafa Gbandi, Deputy General Secretary of the NDC.
The 24-hour economy is a policy, it's a deliberate policy targeted at one, reducing unemployment, two, giving grounds for productivity, enhance extended hour of service, which will give us high productivity, two, produce goods and services in abundance that will curb importation. That is what the 24-hour economy.
But there has to be a demand for it.
Even here,
and a taste for it.
The demand is that here you work 24-hour, right? But it is not a proper 24-hour.
Why?
So our 24-hour is not the one you do. When you have done all these commercials, after 10, you go into music and some other casual programs until morning. Is that not true? But the 24-hour economy will put people on the street. People are listening to you, so you can do adverts in the night. That is a change in your programming. Government says that I'll give you tax cuts for working 24-hour. So if you were operating 100,000 in the night, now you will operate 80,000 because you've got tax cuts. He says the power that you consume in the night, I'll give you an opportunity to reduce the cost so that you operate at a low cost. People will listen to you. You will then employ more security because your guests will be trooping here in the night. When you are coming from your house to come to work, you know that there's police visibility on the street. You are not afraid. There is an enhanced lighting system on the street, so you are not afraid to move out. That is simplicity, 24-hour economy.
But then, Mustafa, you do know that if you, for example, don't have a demand for the excess goods and services that you're going to produce, there's going to be glut of a sort.
When you look at what we import,
our people have developed a certain taste for that which is foreign. I mean, we've been struggling with promoting local rice, even though
I disagree with
you. Hold on, please. The quality of our local rice is good.
Yes.
But people have developed a taste for foreign rice.
Correct.
And then if you tell them that this is local rice, they are about, maybe out of 10, you can find about only 3 who will say, I will go for it.
Yeah.
The other 7 will say, no, I'm not for it.
See?
Now, you will be producing more rice if you're running a 24-hour economy. But then people's demand for it will not be immediately there because you need a certain system, time, and structure. You'll be producing for glut, and then we will be losing.
If we are going by that mentality, then President Akufo-Addo should be hooted at when he said yesterday that he has produced a lot of rice in Ghana when he knows he hasn't produced anything in the first place.
He hasn't produced.
Nothing. You see, that is an elitist taste you are talking about. But you see, majority of the people in Ghana are average, on the average. So when you are making a policy, the policy should be deliberate to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor.
Okay.
Priority is placed on the poor, the displaced, the less privileged. The 24-hour economy is trying to bridge the gap where there's a meeting place of a man who will build a factory. Then there's a meeting place from a person who is willing to work and work more hours. You can only eat when you work.
That's
if you don't work more, you shouldn't eat. When you go to UK right now, you are willing to work 24-hour economy. Why should you be in Ghana and not willing to work 24-hour economy with 24 hours? So whatever you do in UK, that is 24-hour. We'll do the same in 24-hour in Ghana. But it comes at the privilege of tax cuts, government deliberate interventions. Johnny, if you go to the street today, if you close from work at 10, you are likely not to get a pharmacy to buy medicine if you have a problem. Because these pharmacies are afraid of armed robbers.
That's right.
There's poor visibility. So government then says, okay, because people will be on the streets, so the banks will be operating. Somebody from Wa, who is coming to trade at Mokola, can come in the night, go to a bank, take his money, buy his goods. It's 5 a.m., he's on his way out. Traffic will reduce. Johnny, you can get medicine if you want to buy. You can move to a pharmacy and buy. You can go to supermarket and buy any drink, any biscuit of your choice if you are bored. You don't necessarily have to go to a pub.
Okay.
You don't think that would bridge the gap? You don't think that is what the people want? You don't think that...
So then why are the MPP poo-pooing it?
These people, they are threatened.
They are threatened.
They are nation wreckers. They are elitist. They prioritize the rich than the poor. That is the only reason why all their policies benefit. They have even centralized corruption. If you are not in the presidency, you can't even have access to corruption.
Oh, Mustafa.
These people,
we have to go.
They have centralized corruption. That if you don't come from the presidency, even at the level of minister, you can't participate in corruption. So even corruption, they have disenfranchised their own people.
I don't understand you.
I'm telling you. So they are standing against every good thing. Why would they be afraid of His Excellency John Mahama and attacking a man who they know is a very good man? Look, when His Excellency John Mahama was a president, Ambrose Derry, the just past Minister for Interior, he was dying in the north.
Those are personal matters.
No, but we will say it because they are not personal anymore. You asked me to tell you the quality of what I have.
Right.
John Mahama had to fly him to Kuala Lumpur, drove to Kuala Lumpur to ensure that the man was taken care of. That is a man of compassion. That is a leader of compassion. You have heard when President Akufo-Addo was in government, was in opposition, interventions from people like our brother, your friend saying, President Mahama's brother,
Ibrahim
Mahama, Samia Uku and Co. They were spending time 24-hour economy in Ibrahim Mahama's house. Can I go to Bomti's house to go and eat today?
But people used to go to Sir John's house too, the late Sir John's house.
Sir John is dead.
But it's the same thing, same principle.
You see, Sir John is not the one we are looking up to. We are talking about president. Can you go to President Akufo-Addo's house today? Can he boast of extending the same gesture to anybody in the NDC?
Okay, Mustafa, we have to go. And this man brings a comment that I like very much. He says, Mr. Hughes, do you remember Kofi Wayo's rice? Yes, I remember that. The before more, it was some Tujimi rice, dirty and all of that, but it was patronized. The chunks of the population are living below the minimum wage. And I couldn't agree with him more. I remember that as a boy at Kanishi, that Kofi Wayo rice, before more.
Yes.
You know, you would wash it and wash it and wash it. You cook it, it's too Jimmy, but people still ate it.
But John, do you even remember that our day time?
Yes.
When you had to get the privilege of having a bowl of rice.
That's right.
And a chicken by it.
That's right.
Was it imported rice?
No. Mustafa, thank you.
We can go back to our story.
I thank you very much indeed for your time. We have to go.